Dawn bled slowly into the sky, turning the clouds above the capital the color of rusted bronze. From the high terrace of the palace the Queen Mother watched the horizon, hundreds of small lights swing in the morning mist. At first they looked like fireflies, but then the wind shifted and the torches of the rebels came into focus. The people were moving toward her. "So," she murmured, "the ghost child really breathes." Behind her, drums began to roll. The palace bells answered, a harsh metallic chorus summoning every guard to arms. In the courtyards below, shields clattered, horses stamped, banners of crimson unfurled. Erumu prepared for war. The march. At the head of the rebel army rode Amira, cloak whipping behind her, crownless yet unmistakably royal. The old amphitheater had emptied at dawn, now its thousands filled the valley road. Farmers carried spears forged from plow blades. Hunters wore charms of bone and brass. Women marched beside them, faces painted with ash, the color of mourning and resolve. Kunal rode at Amira's side, scanning the ridge. "The north gate is weakest," he said. "If we break it, the rest will crumble." Amira nodded, eyes fixed on the rising towers ahead. "No fire unless I command it. This is our home, we're not here to burn it, we're here to cleanse it." Mornike walked barefoot behind them, whispering incantations. With every step she took, the wind seemed to bend around the army like a protective tide. Inside the walls, the Queen Mother's throne room had become a command center. Maps covered the tables, messengers came and went. Her generals argued for catapults and boiling oil, she waved them silent. "I built this city from fear," she said. "Let fear defend it." But even as she spoke, she saw doubt flicker in their eyes. Many of the guards had families among the crowd outside. Every loyal sword was balanced on the edge of guilt. King Damilar's body still lay in state in the lower hall, candles burning at his feet. The Queen Mother had not allowed burial yet, perhaps believing that as long as he remained unburied, his spirit could not rise against her. Yet the scent of wax and death filled the corridors, unsettling even her. The first clash. When the rebel vanguard reached the north wall, the air broke with thunder. Arrows rained down, striking shields and earth. The sound of drums drowned everything else. "Forward!" Kunal shouted. Ladders slammed against stone, grappling hooks caught the battlements. The guards above hurled spears, but the rebels climbed anyway, howling the old songs of freedom. Lightning flashed, and for an instant the battlefield turned silver. Amira drew the king's sword, recovered from his chamber by Kunal the night before, and raised it high. "For the people. For truth." The army answered in one voice, and the gate shook under the assault of a battering ram. Inside, the Queen Mother listened to the echoes and felt, for the first time in 20 years, the small quiver of fear. It was distant but real. The turning. By midday, smoke curled from the northern rampart. The guards faltered, some threw down their weapons and joined the rebels. The Queen Mother's general ran to her, blood on his armor. "Majesty, they breached the wall." "Then seal the inner court," she snapped. "And bring me the royal dagger." She stood before a mirror, fastening the dagger's sheath to her belt. In the reflection, for a heartbeat, she saw another woman, Adesewa, standing behind her, silent, accusing. She spun around, the vision was gone. But the whisper remained. "Your time is over." The Hall of Echoes. Amira and Kunal fought their way into the lower courtyard. The floor was slick with rain and blood. The palace bells had stopped, only the storm roared now. Kunal was wounded in the arm but still moving. Mornike appeared through the smoke, her robe torn, eyes blazing. "The gates of the ancestors are open," she cried. "Do not falter." They reached the Hall of Echoes, the same hall where Damilar had died. The doors stood half open, golden light spilling out. Amira stepped inside. The Queen Mother waited on the dais, crown crooked, dagger in hand. For a long moment neither spoke. The hall was so still Amira could hear the rain striking the stained glass windows above. "You look like her," the Queen Mother said finally. "Adesewa. Always with those pleading eyes." "You murdered her," Amira replied. "She was weak. Weakness has no place on a throne." Amira took another step forward. Then you don't understand the throne at all. The older woman laughed bitterly. You think ruling is kindness? Ruling is survival. Ruling, Amira said softly, is service. Lightning flashed through the windows. The Queen Mother lunged, steel met steel. Their blades clashed again and again, echoing off marble. The younger woman's strikes were faster, but the elders were precise, born of cold experience. At last the Queen Mother drove Amira back toward the altar. I gave this kingdom order, she hissed. I killed for it. I burned for it. Then burn alone, Amira whispered, twisting aside. The dagger sliced her sleeve, but she caught the Queen Mother's wrist and drove her own blade through the golden sash at her waist. The older woman staggered, eyes wide, not from pain, but from disbelief. Impossible. I cannot die by a child's hand. You will not die by a child's hand, Amira said. You will die by your own. She stepped aside as the Queen Mother stumbled backward into the brazier she had lit herself. Flames caught her robes, the hall filled with light. Guards burst in but froze at the sight, some dropped to their knees before Amira. The silence after. When it was over, the rain stopped. The torches outside hissed out one by one as dawn widened. The people gathered before the palace gates, waiting. Amira walked out slowly, face pale, sword lowered. Kunnal and Mornike followed behind her. No trumpets sounded, no bells rang, only the quiet breathing of thousands. She lifted the sword to the sky. Erumu belongs to her people again, she said. And the crowd knelt, murmuring her name, Queen Amira, until the sound rolled like thunder across the hills. Nightfall. That evening, Amira stood on the same terrace where the Queen Mother had once ruled. The city lay below, scarred but alive. Kunnal's arm was bandaged, Mornike tended the wounded in the courtyards. Amira placed the king's sword across the throne, then turned away. No crown tonight, she said quietly. Let the people rest first. In the reflection of the window she saw two faint figures, Adesewa and Damilar, standing side by side, smiling. For the first time in her life, the palace felt warm. The rain had washed the blood from the streets, but not the memories. 3 days had passed since the fall of the Queen Mother. The city of Erumu stood in uneasy silence, its air thick with both relief and disbelief. The great bells that had long tolled in fear were now quiet. Smoke from burnt banners still curled faintly over the horizon like the kingdom's sigh of exhaustion. Amira had not yet worn the crown. She had spent the 3 days among her people, walking barefoot through the market, visiting the wounded, touching the faces of orphans who had lost everything. Each smile she offered was like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. Yet, inside her heart, she felt the echo of every cry, every soul lost in the war. The palace walls, once echoing with arrogance, now whispered her name in reverence, Queen Amira, but to her, it sounded less like a title and more like a burden. The Council of Renewal. On the 4th morning, she summoned the elders and surviving nobles to the Hall of Renewal, a chamber untouched by the flames of war. It was here that she first declared her vision. The throne of Erumu shall no longer rest on fear, she said. It shall rest on truth, on justice, on the people. The elders murmured among themselves. One of them, the grey-bearded chief Adesewa, bowed deeply. Your Majesty, the people rejoice, but the wounds of the kingdom are deep. The treasury is empty. The noble clans whisper of revenge. And beyond the northern borders, the allied kingdoms are watching, waiting to see if a young queen will falter. Amira's gaze was steady. Then let them watch. They will see that a woman raised in the shadows can rule with the strength of the sun. Her words fell like iron into the chamber, silencing every doubt. Even Chief Adesewa, who had served 3 kings, felt a tremor of awe. The shadows of victory. That night, Amira sat alone in the royal study, the same room where her father, King Damilar, had written his decrees. On the desk lay his journal, charred at the edges but still readable. She opened it, tracing his handwriting with trembling fingers. Power is never evil. It is the hand that wields it that gives it meaning. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then what meaning will mine hold, father, she whispered. The wind shifted, and the lamp flickered. For a fleeting moment, she thought she heard a faint voice, her father's, soft and distant. "You will learn that the crown weighs more than the sword." She turned sharply. The room was empty. But the chill that followed lingered like a ghost's breath. Later that evening, Mornike entered quietly, carrying a bundle of herbs and an expression heavy with thought. "You haven't slept in 3 days," she said, setting the herbs by the window. "Sleep will not heal this kingdom," Amira replied. "No," Mornike said softly, "but sleeplessness will kill its queen." She hesitated before continuing. "I must tell you something, Amira. During the battle, I saw things beyond the mortal veil. The Queen Mother's spirit did not cross into the afterlife peacefully." Amira frowned. "What do you mean?" "She lingers," Mornike whispered. "Bound by hate, or guilt, I cannot tell which. But the veil between the living and the dead grows thin inside these walls." Amira's pulse quickened. "You think she still haunts this palace?" "I know she does. And something darker may have awakened with her fall." Lightning flickered beyond the window, followed by a deep roll of thunder. The lamp's flame wavered again, and for the briefest second, Amira saw a figure reflected in the glass, a woman, tall and regal, her eyes burning like embers. She turned, nothing. Only silence. The banquet of the new dawn. Despite the unease, a grand banquet was held the following week to celebrate the restoration of peace. Dignitaries from neighboring kingdoms arrived, King Olu of Iwur, Queen Dala of Nyasa, and dozens of nobles whose loyalty had long been uncertain. The palace glittered that night, gold against darkness. Musicians played flutes and drums, dancers twirled in the courtyard, and laughter echoed where screams once filled the air. Amira sat upon the throne for the first time, not with arrogance, but with a calm, quiet strength that made even her enemies bow with reluctant admiration. Kunal stood behind her in ceremonial armor, guarding her like a silent wall. But amid the celebration, a strange chill drifted through the air. Candles flickered violently. One of the guests gasped, a golden goblet had shattered on its own. The crowd fell silent. "It's just the wind," someone muttered nervously. But Amira knew better. Her heart began to race. She could feel it, the same presence from the study, moving like cold smoke between the shadows of the hall. From somewhere deep inside the palace, a faint whisper rose, a woman's voice, echoing faintly through the walls. "You took my throne, you took my crown." Amira's fingers tightened around her goblet. Mornike, seated at the far end of the table, froze mid-breath. She had heard it too. Later that night, unable to rest, Amira walked alone through the darkened corridors. Her footsteps echoed against marble as she made her way to the mirror room, the same chamber where generations of rulers had looked upon themselves before coronation. Moonlight streamed through the tall glass windows, bathing the room in silver. A massive mirror stood before her, cracked slightly at the corner from the battle days. As she stepped closer, her reflection flickered and then shifted. She saw herself wearing the Queen Mother's gown, her eyes red like coals, her lips curled into a cruel smile. The reflection moved though she did not. "You wear the crown," the image whispered, "but do you own it?" Amira stumbled back, heart pounding. The reflection reached toward her, and the mirror shattered with a deafening crack. Shards flew across the room like stars breaking apart. Guards burst in at the sound. Kunal was the first to reach her. "Your Majesty! Are you hurt?" Amira was trembling but unharmed. "Search every corridor," she commanded. "Something walks in this palace that should not exist." At dawn, the palace priest arrived with grim news. The sacred flame in the temple, the fire of Erumu that had burned for centuries, had gone out for the first time in history. The elders knelt in fear. "It is a bad omen," one whispered. "It means the ancestors are angry." But Amira stood tall, her voice steady despite the dread coiling inside her. "Then we will find what angers them," she said. "And we will make it right." As she turned toward the palace gates, a cold wind swept through the courtyard, carrying with it the faintest echo of laughter. A woman's laughter. The Queen Mother's laughter. A pale dawn crept over Erumu, spilling light through the shattered windows of the palace. The fire of Erumu had gone out, and the whole city felt it. Merchants in the market whispered of doom, children refused to play near the gates. Even the birds kept away from the royal courtyard. For a kingdom built on legend, silence was a prophecy in itself. Inside the palace, Amira barely touched her breakfast. The food was there: ripe fruit, sweet bread, spiced tea, but her eyes were fixed on the scroll spread open on the table. It was a report from the temple guards. No signs of intrusion, no broken locks, no spilled oil. The flame had simply vanished. "Flames don't vanish," she murmured. "They're taken." Mornike entered quietly, holding a small pouch of herbs. "Drink this," she said. "You look pale." Amira smiled faintly. "Is that a healer's order or a friend's?" "Both." Mornike sat opposite her. "There is talk among the priests. They say the fire of Erumu burns from the breath of the ancestors themselves. If it went out, perhaps the ancestors turned away." Amira's smile faded. "Or perhaps something stronger made them." That night, unable to rest, Amira summoned Kunal and a handful of trusted guards. She carried a lamp and her father's journal. The words inside had been haunting her since she read them. "Behind the throne lies the room where the first crown was forged. Guard it well, for it remembers the sins of those who wore it." The door to the old forge chamber was hidden behind a tapestry in the deepest part of the palace. Dust rose as Kunal pried it open. Inside was a narrow staircase spiraling down into the dark. They descended slowly, the air growing colder with every step. At the bottom lay a stone room carved centuries ago. Racks of broken weapons lined the walls. In the center stood an anvil blackened by age. On it lay a single object wrapped in silk. Amira pulled the cloth away. A crown older than the palace itself, forged of iron and gold, its edges sharp as teeth. The same crown that had rested on the heads of every ruler before her. Kunal stepped back. "I thought the coronation crown was remade every generation." Amira shook her head. "The jewelers only make copies. This is the first one. The real one." She reached out, fingertips brushing the metal, and the torchlight dimmed. The crown hummed, a low vibration that shook the dust from the ceiling. Then, for a brief second, she saw something: flashes of faces, kings and queens, their eyes hollow, their mouths whispering. "Rule. Pay. Rule. Pay." She snatched her hand away. The echoes vanished. "What did you see?" Kunal asked. "Every crown has a curse," she said quietly. "I think I just met ours." That night, she dreamed of a barren woman kneeling beside a cradle of fire. The woman's hands were blistered, yet she smiled as she rocked the cradle. Inside it lay a baby wrapped in silk, glowing softly. A voice echoed from the darkness. "You cannot bear a child, but you will bear destiny." When the woman looked up, Amira gasped. It was Adesewa, younger and radiant. Tears streaked her cheeks as she whispered, "Forgive me, my daughter." Amira woke with a cry, the sheets tangled around her. Her breath came fast. She pressed her palms to her face. "Mother," she whispered. Mornike came rushing in. "What happened?" Amira told her the dream, every detail. Mornike listened without speaking, then opened the pouch she carried and sprinkled ash across the floor. "Dreams like that aren't dreams," she said. "They're invitations." Invitations to what? To truth or to madness? By morning, rumors had spread. The elders demanded answers about the extinguished flame, the broken mirror, the queen's restless nights. Chief Adewole approached the throne. "Majesty, the people grow anxious. They say ghosts roam the corridors, that the ancestors are displeased. Some call for the royal priests to re-anoint you. Others," he hesitated. "Others whisper of replacing you." The hall buzzed with nervous murmurs. Amira rose slowly from her seat. "Anyone who seeks to replace me should first find the courage to face what haunts this palace." Her voice carried so much force that even her doubters bowed. "There will be no second coronation," she continued. "But there will be truth. Summon every record of this kingdom's beginning. I will know what curse my crown carries. 4 days, Amira read. Scrolls, stone tablets, forgotten diaries all spoke of the first queen of Erumu, Queen Alufunk, who had been barren. Desperate, she prayed to the gods of rain and stone. They granted her a child, but in return demanded that the child's lineage would forever pay a price. Every ruler of her bloodline would face the ghost of their predecessor before they died. The curse ensured balance, power could never escape its shadow. Amira set the scroll down, trembling. She understood now. The Queen Mother's spirit wasn't trapped out of vengeance, it was bound by the very foundation of their dynasty. She's not haunting me, Amira whispered. She's fulfilling the curse. That night, thunder rolled across the sky again. As Amira walked past the royal balcony, the curtains lifted violently. A woman's shape formed in the lightning, tall, crowned, eyes burning. You think you freed them, the voice hissed. You've only awakened what sleeps beneath. Amira backed away. Show yourself. The ghost smiled faintly. I am every crown before you. I am the price your mother paid. And soon, you will pay too. Cunnel burst in at the sound of her scream, but the ghost had vanished. Only the smell of burning silk lingered. Days later, while reorganizing her father's study, Amira found a letter sealed in wax beneath a loose drawer plank. The seal was old, the crest of Queen Alufunk herself. She broke it open and read. To the one who wears the crown after my blood is thinned, know this, the curse was not meant to destroy. It was meant to remind. A ruler without remembrance becomes a tyrant. When the dead walk, listen to what they say. Amira read the line again and again until the words blurred. The curse wasn't a punishment. It was a message. That evening she climbed to the roof of the palace, the ancient crown in her hands. The wind howled, storm clouds gathered again. Mornike and Cunnel stood below, calling for her, but she didn't turn. If the crown carries their voices, she whispered to the sky, then let me hear them all. She lifted the crown and placed it on her head. The storm broke. Lightning cracked the sky. Images flooded her mind, the barren queen praying for a child, Adesewa's tears, Damilar's laughter, the queen mother's rage, and 100 others she'd never known. They weren't enemies, they were echoes, all bound by the same promise, protect Erumu, whatever the cost. When the light faded, Amira stood trembling but alive. The curse hadn't consumed her, it had accepted her. The next morning, the fire of Erumu blazed again in the temple. No one knew how. The priests swore they hadn't relit it. The people took it as a sign. Amira, eyes shadowed but calm, stepped out onto the balcony before the crowd. The ancestors do not curse us, she said. They remind us. Our crown does not belong to one person, it belongs to all who came before and all who will come after. Today, Erumu begins again. The crowd erupted in cheers. Mornike smiled faintly, whispering a prayer of thanks. Cunnel bowed his head. But high above, in the glass of the palace window, a faint figure lingered, watching with a mixture of pride and sorrow. The Queen Mother's spirit smiled once, then turned away and vanished into light.